What's up, guys? It's Jason with Napier Photography, and I have got an episode for you today. I'm going to be talking to you about my new Sony A9. It is the flagship sports camera for the Sony system. It's a mirrorless camera. I don't want to get into too many details because it just gets bogged down with the numbers and everything like that. But I can tell you hands down, if you're a mirrorless shooter, you shoot Sony or you shoot any mirrorless camera, or you want to be introduced to what mirrorless cameras can do, you're going to absolutely fall in love with these Sony systems. Okay, I've been shooting the Sony systems now for almost 3 years, and I've shot Canon and Nikon, and I will tell you this, I'm not dissing anybody else because all of the sensors that are in Canon and Nikon are Sony sensors. I'm not dissing any of those because I love those cameras when I shot them, but I'll tell you that my photography changed, my life changed when I started shooting Sony. And it's new, it's taking over. The mirrorless systems are taking over, guys. I mean, Nikon's bought into it, Canon's bought into it. They're trying to speed up and catch up with Sony. And I'm not saying Sony's better than Canon. I'm not saying Sony's better than Nikon, because believe me, there's things about these systems that are better for some brands and better for others. But I can tell you that for me, these Sony systems have been life-changing for my photography, for my professional photography. And they're no longer a toy, a joke. And believe me, when I first started shooting these systems, I'd go out and do photo shoots and they'd see my little A6000, and I remember standing on the sidelines and they didn't mean anything by it. They're like, what in the world is in your hand? You know, what do you have? And I think at the time, you know, Patrick Murphy Racy, which shoots at the University of Tennessee, he's a Sony image artist. He's a Sony artisan of imagery. I think that's right. And he's a phenomenal photographer, and he shoots the Sony systems. And he also shoots at the University of Tennessee, which is, you know, has a soft spot in my heart, and I get to shoot there some too. But it was kind of funny because he's the only one that was really shooting around professionally some of the sports that I was seeing. He was using the Sony systems that guys kind of knew about, and he was so brand new to it to me because I had just been introduced to it. But now I've been shooting for about 3 years, and I can tell you, and I'm going to give you reviews on these cameras, and if you don't know about them, you need to find out, because these systems, if you are wanting to try something else, maybe your photography's gotten a little boring for you, or maybe you don't feel the passion that you've had that you used to have with photography, go buy your little A6000. There's an A6000, A6300, A6500. There's a bunch now because Sony is just churning out better cameras every 6 to 8 months. It's crazy what we're getting. Like I'm shooting on the A7 II right now. That's what my video with a 24 to 70 2.8 lens. The video on this, quality on this is just ridiculous, you know. And the A6000 is a phenomenal little camera. But today, I'm talking about the Sony A9. The Sony A9 is the flagship sports camera. Look at that. A9. Listen, this is a serious piece of gear right here, okay? I've got the Sony A9 with a little battery grip because I like it. It kind of extends the grip a little bit. You know, I've got big hands and it kind of helps out. The only thing and I'll get into pros and cons later, but anyway, I like the added grip that it gives me. I've got it paired with the 100 to 400. Okay, this is 4.5 to 5.6. This is the 100 to 400 sports lens that Sony came out in conjunction with the Sony A9, because they want to show the world that they know what sports photographers need and that the mirrorless camera is coming. And it is. You can quote me. You're gonna see just as many Sony cameras on the sidelines in the next 3 to 4 years as there are Canon and Nikon, because a lot of these guys are starting to buy in. The only thing that's limiting a lot of people from switching over is cost and habit. You know, and I understand, because when I switched from Nikon to Sony, it was expensive, but luckily, you know, I just did it. I jumped in. Head first, jumped in. But now, this is a serious setup. I mean, this body alone gosh, brace yourself. This is $4,500 right here, okay? 45, almost 46. It's $45.99. Okay, just for that. This right here, you know, $349, something like that. But let me tell you something. This A9 is ridiculous. I could get into numbers, but one thing you need to know, this thing uses 93% of the sensor with 600 and something odd focus points, shoots 20 frames per second, has an electronic shutter that you completely can turn the sound off on this thing, okay? Did you hear me? Like literally, you don't hear it. You hear that? That's because there's no sound. No sound. Silent. And if you're a wedding photographer or somebody takes pictures in meetings, and you know how annoying that is. And you know it because you know they want the photos, but then you're taking your cheek, and even if you don't have flash going, they hear it, and people will look at you and roll their eyes and have their cell phones up, and they're not making noises with their cell phones, but they're not getting, in my opinion, the type of quality photos that these cameras can give you. Professional, usable, printable, beautiful photos that you can get with these cameras you can't get with a cell phone, in my opinion. You may print your pictures from your cell phone and love them, but I know for a fact that I've printed pictures from my cell phone, and I have the nicest cell phone you can get, and they don't look as nice as what I get from these cameras, okay? But I'm going to talk to you about the A9, and I'm also going to talk to you about this 104. And the reason I'm reviewing this now is this is not my lens. And let me say this real quick. I'm not being paid by Sony to say anything about this camera. Okay, this is me telling you about it. So I'm just an average Joe professional photographer that's telling you about the equipment he's using and what he thinks about it. Okay, you can take it for whatever you want. You can say this guy has no idea what he's talking about, or you can say, you know what, that's pretty cool. He's just an average professional photographer, newly professional. Okay, photographer who's really invested in something. You know, I'm a teacher by trade, and this is my other career. And I spend a lot of money to have good quality equipment. And this is professional quality equipment, guys. I mean, so anyway, what can I tell you about the A9? Okay, I took this thing out to, I bought it, I've had it about 2 weeks. I took it to Universal with me. I've shot some football games at the high school games with it. I shot an SEC Georgia versus Tennessee game just this past weekend with it. And I'm going to tell you that it is the best performing camera I've ever used in my life. Canon, Nikon to me, what I've been able to do with it. Because my Sony A9, it defies all the laws that photojournalists have put in your head as how you got to shoot sports, how you got to shoot fast moving objects, how you got to do things. These mirrorless cameras, there are no boundaries. There are no boundaries to what you can do. I do things with this that will make the snobby photographer roll their eyes.